What's up, my people? How's everyone doing tonight? I know it's been a good minute since you last saw me. I hope everyone's night is going absolutely wonderful. Last time I talked to y'all was about the 2025 events, and that was last Monday. I know it's been a minute. I've been very busy with Mardi Gras. I hope everyone's also having a wonderful Mardi Gras around the world. But today we'll be talking about like the MCU's timeline, like Iron Man, Thor, Captain America. We're mostly talking about the MCU, not Sony. Only what most of these guys made it. Hold on. All right. Going to be getting to it right now. Right here, the first movie which came out for the MCU timeline was Captain Marvel, I believe. Let me get to it. Where's the timeline? Hmm. Where is it? Hold on. I'm so lost right now. Throwbacks. All right. So the first movie, I'm so sorry, it was not Captain Marvel. It is Captain America. Captain America basically was Steve Rogers, who was a skinny boy from Brooklyn, was getting like bullied and he wanted to be more than what he was. And then his buddy Bucky was part of the army or part of this like hmm, service to protect the state. And they were doing like tests on human beings with the super serum, which Steve Rogers took to get his powers, which made him super strong, super fast, basically a superhuman. And then they were basically going against these people called Hydra, who was led by the main villain, Red Skull, who was trying to take possession of one of the Infinity Stones called the Tesseract, which Steve Rogers basically won against Red Skull, but he had to sacrifice himself to save people in New York because he was flying in a like broken plane and he didn't want to crash it into the city, so he plunged it down into the Arctic. The next movie was basically Captain Marvel was like it was almost the same movie, but she was part of the Air Force and she ran into these like bunch of aliens who like memory wiped her and said she was part of their race and they were trying to destroy these other alien races called Skrulls. These Skrulls are able to like transform into us by like hmm not not mutation, basically like transform, like I was saying, basically able to look like us. So, but eventually she figured out the truth that these people were liars. Like her own people were like mind wiped her and they're killing innocent aliens, which are the Skrulls. And she ran into Nick Fury, who's the one who made the Avengers, and she told Nick Fury anytime when there's a big threat on Earth, call her. And then she went out in space to help the Skrulls find a new planet where they can live. The movie after that, which is probably ooh, 20 years later. So in the early 2000s, Iron Man was the first ever Marvel movie and became the big star of Marvel itself. But in the movie, he was this like cocky playboy who like only cared about himself and money until these people called the Ten Rings kidnapped him and like not manipulated, tortured him into building them missiles. But after they put him back into like his cell, who he was working with this scientist, they they worked together to build this his first ever Iron Man suit. But they built his first ever Iron Man suit where he used it to escape the Ten Rings and get back to like home, and that he like wanted to build more suits to be able to protect people and become like a superhero until he figured out his business partner was the one who sent the Ten Rings to kill him. And before he figured that out, the dude built his own Iron Man suit called the Ironmonger, but Iron Man won against Ironmonger by using electricity on him, and then he basically admitted he was Iron Man to the people. Couple years later, Iron Man 2 came out, and basically it was the same thing about Iron Man 1. But the villain hated Iron Man because he, like, took down his father and he wanted to get revenge for his father. And Iron Man, like, basically humiliated him in front of everyone during, like, a racetrack fight after he brought his own weapons to try to kill Iron Man the first time for his father. But after Iron Man defeated him, he worked together with this guy called Hammer Industries, where this guy called Something Hammer was working together to defeat Tony Stark. But eventually, Iron Man defeated him and saved Pepper, and Pepper started running Stark Industries. The movie after that was basically the Hulk movie, where Hulk was basically hiding from the government and he was trying to control his emotions, and then basically he escaped into the ice. I wasn't really a big fan of this movie, so I don't watch it repeatedly. Most of these movies I do watch repeatedly. But the next movie was Thor, where basically when he was about to become king of Asgard, he was like his castle was attacked by the frost giants, which are their natural enemies. And then after uh, he discovers the frost giants were there to take a very important item, he went down with his like Warrior 3 and Lady Sif. They went to go like fight with the ice giants, which caused them to like make threaten a war against Asgard. And that basically peace treaty went away after Thor and his pals went to go fight them for disturbing his like crown ceremony. And then after that, Thor was basically stripped from his powers because Odin, his father, was super upset with him for what he caused. So he sent him down to Earth because he was unworthy of having his power. After Thor, like, basically had a life lesson where he learned the value of other people and became worthy again, Loki put Odin into like a deep sleep after they got into like a heated argument, which overwhelmed Odin and put him into a deep sleep. So Loki sent the Destroyer, which is basically like a protocol, like a humanoid protocol where the Destroyer goes destroy someone or a thing. Loki sent it after Thor before he became worthy again, and when he became worthy, he went. Thor destroyed the Destroyer and basically got into a fight with Loki, where Loki killed himself by falling into space after Odin tried to save Thor and Loki. And then in the end credits, it showed that Nick Fury and the Shield, basically, which Nick Fury is the boss of, found the Tesseract, which Loki wants. After Thor was basically the Avengers movie, where after Loki like teleported into like Nick Fury's headquarters, he he wanted the Tesseract. He teleported in because of Thanos and one of Thanos's like henchmen's, and they teleported Loki in to get the Tesseract to basically take over Earth. After he took the Tesseract by mind controlling or killing people in the like base, he basically like took the Tesseract, dipped, and tried to figure out the perfect spot to like duoport where basically Iron Man, Captain America, Black Widow, Hawkeye, which Hawkeye was mostly like brainwashed by Loki most of the movie until like Black Widow like smacked him into reality. He and then there's Hulk and then there's Thor. Thor, it was mostly Loki was going after this rich dude for his eyeball. Captain America, Black Widow showed up to stop him. Then Iron Man showed up and they started working together to stop Loki. And when they were bringing Loki back to the base, Thor showed up and tried to take Loki back to Asgard to put him into like prison. Which Iron Man started fighting Thor because he thought Thor was trying to give Loki an easy ticket out of punishment. Which Captain America stopped Thor and Iron Man from fighting even more. They all stood and agreed that they should take care of Loki together. And then Bruce Banner, which is Hulk, he basically was at the base the whole time, trying to do studies on the Tesseract and Loki's new weapon, which is like the scepter, which is holding the Mind Stone. And then after Loki basically manipulated the team to start fighting, Hulk, or basically Bruce Banner, became Hulk. Thor and Hulk started fighting because Thor was trying to calm down Bruce Banner. And then Iron Man, Captain America was trying to keep the airship up, which is their base. And then Black Widow and Hawkeye was fighting, and that's when Black Widow smacked Green, or not Green Arrow, Hawkeye back into reality. After that, Loki was basically teleporting Thanos's like goons into New York, which all the Avengers, which is Thor, Captain America, Hulk, Iron Man, Hawkeye, Black Widow, all work together to basically stop Loki, which they did, but Iron Man almost sacrificed his life to save everyone, but he did survive. But so so Coulson didn't do it. He he died for us. It was super sad that he died. He was a great character for the first Iron Man movie and the first movie. Such a good character. But after they caught Loki, they all separated, which Thor brought Loki and the Tesseract back to Asgard. And then after Iron Man went back to his place, Captain America went to go on another mission. Basically, everyone went to go do what they usually do after they take down a massive villain. Like, Thor goes back to his home planet, Iron Man goes back to hanging out with Pepper, Captain America goes back to doing missions with Black Widow for Shield, and Hawkeye does the same thing. Hulk basically tries to stay calm, basically meditation. And that's what they do. The next movie after the Avengers is Thor: The Dark World, which was basically um, Thor's love interest, Jane Foster, found a Infinity Stone called the ether, which is the reality stone, and she got very ill from it, which Thor, hold on, which Thor basically wanted to take care of Jane Foster to get her better again. Where basically these people called the Dark Elves wanted this ether inside of her, which can make this the king, or basically the leader of the Dark Elves, super powerful. Which Thor was trying to get Jane better, keep it away from the Dark Elves, but after bringing it back to Asgard, the Dark Elves sent to attack to Asgard and killed Thor's mom, which is like super depressing because Thor's mom was super lovely in the movies. Always cared about Thor and Loki, which sadly Loki did send the brute of the Dark Elves to her on accident, which is like super depressing. After the attack, that Thor brought Loki and Jane on a special mission to stop the Dark Elves, which goes sideways because the Dark Elves were too powerful to defeat, and they planned to attack on Earth, which Thor used basically like teleporting machines to like split him apart, which they eventually won, which Thor had to stay at Asgard while Jane Foster stayed on Earth, which Jane Foster was super upset about during Thor's last, like, not talking to her. The next movie after Thor, or after Thor the Dark World, is Iron Man 3. Was basically like an anxiety attack for Tony Stark after Avengers, where he get more anxious about like certain like moments. He starts getting more ill. He has to fight this character or villain. Hold on. He basically like starts getting ill. He starts basically unhealthy. I don't know what else to say, but the main villain of it was basically this old, not old person, but like old, uh, not old person. He met this person a long time ago, which basically found, who basically found Tony very inspirational. Ooh, very ins- hold on. And he found Tony Stark influence very like amazing, where he wanted to be by Tony's side and work together. But Tony Stark basically humiliated him and like bailed on him and didn't meet him at the end of or New Year. And then he became like the Mandarin, and who basically can turn his body into fire or very heated material, and was going after Pepper and was trying to take over his company by like humiliating Tony or trying to take his wife or trying to kill Tony, but he eventually stops him by putting him into one of his suits and blowing it up. The next movie was, let me see, was Captain America: The Winter Soldier, where he basically Captain America was like going against Hydra because they were like corrupting the government, and he was fighting the Winter Soldier until he figured out the Winter Soldier was basically his old best friend back in the first movie, where Bucky Barnes is a Winter Soldier, and was like last time Steve Rogers, which is Captain America, seen Bucky was during the war back in the first movie, where Bucky Barnes like fell off a train track into the mountain or into the mountains, and now he's seeing his best friend after 50 or 60 years later, where he's like he hasn't also aged, but Bucky Barnes got like manipulated, brainwashed into working with Hydra, and was like program was scheduled to kill Captain America and like help them conquer Shield or the government. But after the Soldier Boy did defeat Captain America, but let Captain America live, but Hydra was trying to like brainwash or no. Bucky Barnes escaped from Hydra and tried to live his own life. But after Captain America was Guardians of the Galaxy, where basically this team called the Guardians of the Galaxy was like with Star Lord, which is Peter Quill, um, basically Groot, Drax, Gamora, where they were like working together to stop this like evil person called, or the villain called Ronan, where basically the villain was called Ronan because he wanted to destroy other planets and conquer and rule other planets. He was also working for Thanos at the time, and he wanted to use the Power Stone to destroy this planet. But after he got the Power Stone, the Guardians of the Galaxy basically worked worked together and destroyed, or didn't destroy, basically took the Power Stone away from Ronan and used it against him, and he died while Guardians of the Galaxy brought the Power Stone to the planet what it was going to destroy. I love Guardians of the Galaxy, but like so like it makes me feel so old. But the next movie after Guardians of the Galaxy is Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where basically their journey continues, and Peter Quill, which is Star Lord, finds out more of his family, and he figures out that his dad is like a very powerful cosmic being, where he like spreads all around the universe and corrupts them, which he also gave his mom, Peter Crow's mom, cancer. And then after after he figures that out, he tries to kill his father, but it doesn't work. So he works together with his his group, or his group of Guardians of the Galaxy, with, like I said, Groot, Rocket, Drax, Gamora, Nebula, but Groot died during the first movie, so we got Baby Groot during the second movie, which he's so cute. I love Baby Groot so much. But they eventually work together to destroy Ego, which Yondu, which is the one who took care of Peter Quill when he was a child and made him into like a tough person in the galaxy. But they do a memorial for him. They do a funeral, which is the most cutest thing. I feel so bad for Yondu. The next movie, which we're going to be doing, is Avengers: The Age of Ultron, where basically it continues probably 3 years after the first Avengers movie, where basically they're going after Hydra, who took the Mind Stone away from the Avengers. The Avengers fight their way in. We meet two new characters called the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, where they go against, basically they're the first mutants in the Marvel universe, where basically they work for Hydra. They tried to stop the Avengers, but the Avengers took the Mind Stone back, and they also uh they let Tony Stark take the Mind Stone, which led up to the events to making Ultron, and Ultron basically crashed the Avengers party, because the Avengers were like throwing a party for getting the Mind Stone back, and then Ultron crashed the party after most of the people left. The only people who were still there was Bruce Banner, Hawkeye, Black Widow, Captain America, Tony Stark, War Machine, Thor. But after Ultron appeared, he was trying to he took the Mind Stone back and threw flew it all the way back to like, not the Hydra's base, but like his base now. Since Hydra abandoned that post now, Ultron took that place now and started working and like building new machines and new like robotic pieces, which eventually he started working together with the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver to basically like build his perfect body, which is the Vision body, which has the Mind Stone. The Mind Stone is able to m- control anyone's mind. After the Avengers went after Ultron again to get the Mind Stone, it basically was a back and forth fight where they almost get Ultron, but they don't because the Scarlet Witch manipulates Hulk's mind, where he starts destroying a city where everyone gets their mind manipulated except for Iron Man and Hawkeye. Hawkeye was taking care of Black Widow, Thor, and Captain America, while Iron Man took care of Hulk with the Hulk Buster and knocked out Hulk. And then they went after Ultron again, where Ultron was basically like floating this big old like city in the air where he was gonna drop it and make it like a big old meteor which can destroy all of human race. Which the Avengers stop him with Vision by erasing all the data he has with Vision's Mind Stone. They basically win, and then he like they use the Mind Stone for Vision's body, which Vision becomes part of the team. The next movie after that is Ant-Man, which is basically Ant-Man, which is Scott Lang, is learning from the original Ant-Man when what's his name? Hank Pym was Ant-Man back when 1980s. So he started learning from the old Ant-Man, and basically it was a movie where Scott Lang is learning to be Ant-Man, and he fought the Yellow Jacket, which was threatening his family, and then eventually Scott Lang met Captain America. The movie after that is Captain America Civil War, which Ant Man led up to, which Ant Man worked together with Captain America. Captain America built his own team, which is Bucky Barnes, which is the soldier, the Winter Soldier, the Falcon, which is Sam Wilson. Then we got the Scarlet Witch. We got hmm, let me think. Hawkeye. We got. I think that is Ant Man, Captain America, the Winter Soldier, the Falcon, the Scarlet Witch, Hawkeye, and that's it. Basically, Captain America built his team because how how he feels right to basically protect the innocent at all costs, while Iron Man Tony Stark didn't feel right because it causes too much destruction when they get involved, and most people, innocent people, die, which Iron Man, Black Panther, Vision, uh War Machine, Spider-Man, who else, and Black Widow all work together to stand for what they feel right. in which they basically all get into a fight because the government thinks Bucky Barnes killed the king of Wakanda. So Captain America's team was protecting Bucky Barnes while Iron Man's team wanted to bring him in. Which eventually we get revealed that Zemo is the true killer, who is the one who was manipulating the team to fight. Which they defeat him and bring him to prison. After that, we get introduced to the Black Widow movie, where basically we learn more about Black Widow's history, where she basically uh goes back to the Red Room because she's an assassin. She works for this group called uh man, I'm terrible at the names. Hold on. Well, she's basically an assassin. She goes back to her past because she's getting like targeted by this person called the Taskmaster, which works in the same like workforce which she used to work for. So she goes back to the Red Room and figures out that the boss wants her to start working for him again, but she refuses and turns into Black Widow, wanting to destroy the whole workforce so everyone can be free, which she succeeds at doing, but it ends off with basically Black Widow and her her family reuniting and like not living together but understanding each other, which is a very cute movie. The next movie, which happens after Black Widow, is Black Panther, which is basically like, hmm, not the introduction, but like we learn more about him since we got introduced to him in Captain America Civil War. And we were like, we learned more of where he comes. Damn, my nose. We figure out more about where he comes from. We get to figure out more about his culture, where basically after his father died, which was the king, he became the king of Wakanda and took the power of the Black Panther and like hmm well how do I say it? Basically protected and kept Wakanda a secret until this person called Killmonger was like wanting to use the resources across the world to help civilizations together and like bring civilizations more advanced, which giving vibranium out to the world can make like very bad people advance too much and like conquer big parts of the world. That's why Wakanda basically keeps all the vibranium to not make a bad civilization into like ruining the world. So T'Challa, which is Black Panther, like abs- denies or doesn't deny, but more like doesn't agree with Killmonger's like doesn't agree with how Killmonger feels and feels like it can go into ruin, which Killmonger dares T'Challa to go to do a fight to the death to become king, which T'Challa basically loses the fight and basically gets thrown off of the cliff, which leads some members of Wakanda or the tribe or the colony or the community to basically look for T'Challa's body to revive him, which they do. They revive him, and then Black Panther gets into a big fight with Killmonger, which Black Panther wins, and basically brings Killmonger onto the cliff to have a peaceful death, since they are still family, which is still cute. The next movie which we got is Spider-Man Homecoming, which is basically just Spider-Man. Like, I know we get Spider-Man introduced in Captain America Civil War, but we get more into depth about Spider-Man and Homecoming because it shows that he's fighting more low street level villains where we get more of his love life, shows more of his relationship with his family and all that. And the villain was the Vulture, which it's a low tier villain, and it was basically showing that Spider-Man went to a high school. Then he felt loved the love interest, brought her to Homecoming, figured out that the dad was the villain, which Peter Parker was trying to tell Tony Stark, Iron Man, that the villain is the dad, but he doesn't care, saying it's a low tier villain, which Spider Man took care of it and stopped the villain. It's a wonderful movie. It's nothing too major. It's a simple, good movie. The next movie which we got is Doctor Strange, where basically um hmm it's basically Doctor Strange uh was a normal human, not a normal human being. He was more of a average Joe, where he was a surgeon. He was very fancy, very modern, and very rich, I would say, until he gets into a car accident where it makes his hands start to shake not able to be precise anymore with being a surgeon. And then he goes to find like this ancient one which is able to heal his hands, which is basically not dark magic, more of, how do you say it? Hmm. I know the word. Man, able to do magic with your hands. Yeah, that's the word. But he's able to do magic now because the ancient one taught him to do magic. It doesn't heal his hands. It just it makes him more like stable, more, I don't know how to say it. It's more like not stable because his hands still shake, more healed. Like he healed himself where he is able to do magic but his hands still shake. I know I'm hard at explaining it, but after he figured out these group of people were trying to summon Dormammu, which is like this very strong, evil, cosmic being. He he also figured out that these same people use like dark magic, which is like terrible for the human body or anything in general. And then he also figures out that the ancient one, the one who taught him, also uses dark magic, which he got upset, but he doesn't fight her, which she tries to like, she does feel bad for using dark magic, but she basically stops using dark magic because the only thing she was using dark magic on is her age and her power scale, which once she stopped using the dark magic, she like she passed away, which is super sad. But after she passed away, Doctor Strange started like going after the dark magic users and the people who were like summoning Dormammu. So he used the time stone to pause time and get to Dormammu, which he tries to do a bargain with him. But Dormammu keeps killing him, but Doctor Strange, or Stephen Strange, which is his real name, uses like a time loop spell where every single time he dies, they go back in time to when they're about to do the bargain. So basically, an infinite loop until they do a bargain, which Dormammu eventually bargains, and they basically sent Dormammu back into his normal realm. And then that was basically the end of Doctor Strange. It was basically the introduction of how powerful Doctor Strange is. And like we're gonna see him up in the next movie because every single time when we get a character with a single movie who we don't who hasn't had a movie yet is between we're gonna see him in the next movie or we already seen him in the movie before for the first time, which I really do like the old MCU doing that. But the next movie, which is after Doctor Strange, is uh Thor Ragnarok, which is one of my most favorite movies of all times. So it's basically Thor going around the nine realms to have peace until he gets back home, and then he figures out there's something wrong. Like, basically, there's something wrong with his father. And then I'm so sorry. I was taking a sip of my drink, trying to stay hydrated. Always stay hydrated. But after after coming back home, he figured out that his brother Loki was pretending to be their father. So they went back to Earth to find their father, like basically living his final moments, which is like old age. After he passed away, basically their sister Hela was like free from her prison and was demanding them to like kneel before her. But basically they refuse, and when they were trying to escape Hela after Hela destroyed Mjolnir, which is very difficult to do, they tried to Bifrost out of there, which is like a teleporter, but Hela like knocked them both out of the Bifrost, and Hela went to Asgard while Thor and Loki landed on this planet, which is like basically a gladiator ring where Thor ran into Hulk. Last time we seen Hulk was during Age of Ultron when Hulk went basically on one of the planes into space after defeating Ultron because Ultron was trying to like escape. So after Thor fought Hulk and was able to escape that planet, they went back to Asgard where Hela was basically raining hell on Asgard, which Thor couldn't basically like stop her. So he pulled out the only option he had, which was the villain in the beginning of the movie called Surtur, which he's able to grow into this like big flame giant with the internal flame, which the internal flame is basically like a power up, which Surtur uh was able to destroy Hela, and Thor Thor and what is it called? Thor and Hulk, Loki, uh Valkyrie and other people were able to basically escape onto this aircraft into space to go to Earth to survive there. But that's where the movie ends. But the next movie is called Ant-Man and the Wasp, where basically it continues the adventure of Ant-Man, introduces the Wasp, where basically uh they also discover the what is it called? It discovers uh the quantum realm, where basically they go into the quantum realm and save Hope. Hope is the Wasp, so they went to go to the quantum realm to save Hope's mom, and they eventually do, but the government was keep on trying to like take Scott Lang, the equipment they were using. So it was basically like a runaround movie. Very good movie. The end credits end with Ant-Man being stuck into the quantum realm for a very specific reason, because Hank Pym, Hope, and Hope's mom all became dusted, because the next movie is called Avengers Infinity War, which the end credits happen during Avengers Infinity War. That's why I was talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp. So basically, in Avengers Endgame, it starts off with on the spaceship which Thor was on, and it shows Thanos tried. Ooh, oh, hmm, damn, what was that? Something went up my nose. Basically, like, Thanos was trying to take the Space Stone away from Thor, or basically from the Asgardians, but Thor was denying it, but Loki had it all along and gave it to Thanos to keep Thor alive, which leads to Thor and not Thor, Loki and Hulk trying to fight Thanos, but he knocks out Hulk and kills Loki. And then Heimdall, which is someone who's able to teleport people, teleported Hulk back into back to Earth, which Hulk like warned Tony Stark, Doctor Strange, and Spider Man about Thanos, which at that same time Thanos sent his goons to get the time stone from Doctor Strange, while Hulk and Thor was still on the planet. Thanos teleported away to go to the place called Nowhere to get the Reality Stone, while destroying the spaceship. After that happened, he teleported back, or no, Thor and Hulk. Oh, wait, no. Hulk is back on Earth. Hulk, no. Thor was floating around in space after the ship blew up and ran into the Guardians of the Galaxy. So he took Rocket and Groot to make his new weapon called Stormbreaker, while Peter Quill, Gamora, Mantis, which is a new part of the Guardians of the Galaxy from the second movie, Drax, we're all going to confront Thanos up in nowhere. So basically, three different stories so far: Iron Man, Hulk, Doctor Strange, Spider Man together, while Peter Quill, Gamora, Drax, and Mantis are together, while Thor, um, Rocket, and Groot are together to make a weapon. So after a good minute, Spider Man, Doctor Strange, and Iron Man went into space because one of the goons kidnapped Doctor Strange to take the Mind Stone. So they went into space and basically didn't crash the ship, but basically, what is it called? Oh, okay. So basically, Thor went to go make his weapon, while Guardians of the Galaxy basically ran into Thanos because Thanos was getting the Reality Stone, which they attacked Thanos, but apparently it was all like an illusion from the Reality Stone, and he basically like took Gamora to go to get the Soul Stone, which led the Guardians of the Galaxy crashing with the Iron Man, Spider Man, and Doctor Strange, so which they planned together to be at Titan, which Thanos' goon was going to plan to meet him at, which they all planned over there to attack Thanos, while Bruce Banner, which is Hulk, contacted Captain America, Black Widow, the Falcon, War Machine, Black Widow. They all work together to protect the Mind Stone on Vision and Wakanda. After that, uh, Thanos brought Gamora to the Soul Stone area, sacrificed her to get the Soul Stone, went to Titan to get the Time Stone, but his goon wasn't there, so they all started fighting, which is Star Lord, Nebula, Drax, Mantis, Spider Man, Doctor Strange, and Iron Man. They all fought Thanos. They eventually lost, which made Doctor Strange like sacrifice the Time Stone for Iron Man's life. After that, Thanos went to Wakanda to get the Mind Stone, which he successfully did. He snapped his fingers, and half of the population was gone. Most people were dead. Most of them got dusted away, while half of them didn't. They lived. The movie continues with Endgame when they figured out time travel and brought back all the Infinity Stones and basically ran into the past version of Thanos and had to fight Thanos again. And basically, Iron Man snapped his fingers to get rid of Thanos and bring back everyone. And then basically, Tony Stark died. There was a funeral. And then basically Captain America went back in time to bring back the stones. After Endgame was basically lots of shows like Loki was basically the what the conclusion is for what happened in Endgame when Loki escaped from the Avengers when they went back in time. What If is basically about what if part of the timeline was different. WandaVision is basically Wanda, which is the Scarlet Witch, trying to get over the grief of her dying boyfriend, which is Vision, after Infinity War. Hmm. What other movies are there? Alright. We're going to be talking about uh Chun-Chi. Where basically Chun-Chi was basically like this martial arts guy which worked for a hotel. He didn't know much, or he knew a lot about his family. But when he went out for his first assassination, he basically like escaped from his family for like 15 years. So he hasn't seen them for a while until his father went to go. Well, his father always knew where he was. His father let him live his life, but he could have not, but he did. But after, like, basically the 10 rings, basically, this guy who is Chung Chi's father is the real Mandarin from Iron Man 3. And he was like hearing voices, which was apparently quote unquote his dead wife, trying to lead him the way to bring her back, which is part of a different world, which he needed. Like, I don't know how it has anything to do with his son. I kind of forgot, but I think it was because he wanted to bring the family back together when he brings his wife back. But Chun-Chi figures out that there's something wrong, and he goes against him and tries like basically protect this city because, or like civilization, because he figured out that the voice which his father has is like a demon from a different dimension, which the monster or the demon does come out from the other dimension and like sucks the soul out of his father, but the dragon, which was also part of the dimension, helped him defeat the demon. So that's a very cool, good movie. So basically, this been going on for a good hour and 13 minutes. What the heck? How much more movies we got? Oh, not much more. Hold on, hold on. Where were we? Alright. Basically, the next thing is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where basically the Falcon was getting like getting prepared to take the mantle of Captain America until he wasn't, because of the government giving someone else the mantle of Captain America. to this guy called John Walker. We're about to talk about John Walker and another movie, but we're on Captain the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So basically, it was basically just about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier working together to stop these other people who had like super serum powers or super strength, who wanted to basically wreak havoc across like around the world, which they eventually stopped them and put them into prison. It was basically just getting ready for something else, which is big. The next movie, which we're going to be talking about, this is taking so long. I'm happy I get to talk to y'all because I don't know, most of y'all might like it. I'm hoping that y'all do. But the next movie which we got is Spider-Man Far From Home, where basically Spider-Man was working together with Nick Fury, or Nick Fury was giving Spider-Man orders to basically fight these element monsters. But eventually they figure out that it was mostly holograms from this guy called Mysterio, which Mysterio is this guy who is a quote unquote hero in front of Spider Man. But after Spider Man trusted him, he took advantage to try to destroy Spider Man. But Spider Man eventually stops Mysterio and basically puts him into prison. But before he could, Mysterio basically like reveals Spider Man's identity, which is Peter Parker. And then that's where the movie ends. It continues during another movie, but the next movie is called The Eternals, where basically it's these like cosmic beings which live for millions of years, where they basically make sure the population is stable for a theastral where they can grow inside of the planet and break through the planet and grow. But if the population isn't stable, uh, they go and to kill like to break down the population, but they cannot like interfere. So it was basically the group was divided. Icarus and Sprite wanted to keep the population stable so they can do their job, while the others, like the other internals, became like more self-aware and wanted to help the population instead of like destroy it for its yesterday. Where eventually the good ones went like they win the fight, and Icarus like flew into the sun to never return again. But it's a good movie. It's not like my favorite, but it's still a good movie. The next movie is basically Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, or basically Doctor Strange was protecting this person called America Chavez, where the Scarlet Witch was like going after her because she believes that she can bring her to a reality where Vision is still alive, and she can like live a happy life as a family with Vision and her kids. But she keeps on chasing Doctor Strange, and America Chavez across reality, where eventually uh, they run into Illuminati, which we're introduced to Professor X, Mr. Fantastic, Black Bolt, Captain Marvel, uh, who else? Who else? Who else? Who else? Captain Carter, but Wanda kills all of the Illuminati, keeps on going after American Chavez, but eventually Doctor Strange like talks Wanda out of it, which causes her to like to kill herself or like sacrifice herself to end her like corruptedness in her mind. But the next movie we got is Hawkeye, which is like one of the best TV shows out there because it's so Christmassy, so good in my opinion. It's basically just Hawkeye helping this girl learn how to become a hero and basically he's like getting targeted by so many villains, but he eventually like between like stops them from killing him, or like for example Echo was going after him, but Echo eventually stops going after him because she thinks it's pointless, while Yelena, which is Black Widow's sister, who she believes Hawkeye killed Black Widow, but Hawkeye talked Yelena out of it, which is an absolutely wonderful movie. I would advise you to watch this show. I really like it. After that movie, we basically learn about Moon Knight. It's a great show. It's basically like this guy called Grant has like uh like multiple split personality disorder where he's like three people in one. He works together with this moon god where he's trying to stop this other god from like conquering the planet, and they're trying to basically take revenge for the innocent. Phew! Ooh. Take revenge for the innocent of the night. Wonderful show. The next movie, or yes, the next movie is Wakanda Forever, which is like Black Panther 2, where Shuri, which is Black Panther's or T'Challa's little sister, takes a mantle of Black Panther and basically trying to have a treaty with this guy called or Namor. So he's over here like threatening to like take over Wakanda and take all of the resources, but they get into a treaty, a peace treaty, or a agreement more like it, and but sadly her Shuri's mom dies, which is a very sad moment. The next movie which we got is um 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 it is Thor Love and Thunder, where basically this uh Thor is basically losing peace of mind across space because he hasn't found love across the universe or space, which eventually he runs back into Jane Foster from the first and second movie and falls in love with her again. Which, but the problem is, Gore, the God Butcher, is going after Thor because he has Stormbreaker, and it can lead him to eternity, which he wants to pray to kill all the gods for what they did to him and his daughter. But after Thor and Jane Foster fought him to basically protect all the gods out there, she Thor basically said he wants to spend his life or spend his last moments with his love before he puts any focus into Gore for making a wish like that. So basically, Gore realizes that he has the chance to bring his daughter back to life, which he did, which he lets Thor take care of his daughter because he died. Absolutely wonderful movie. But the next movie after that is Ant-Man Quantumania, where basically Ant-Man figures out there's a civilization in the quantum realm, which is led by Kang the Conqueror, which basically he's trying to get back into normal size to be able to conquer their planet or universe. But after Ant-Man discovers that, he works together with Hank Pym, Hope, his mom, his daughter, to take him down, which it works with a whole army of ants, which is the most saddest thing. I expected more from Kang the Conqueror. But after Ant-Man Quantumania, we got uh Guardians of the Galaxy, which basically was, or not Guardians of the Galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, where basically we learn more about where Rocket the raccoon, comes from. And Rocket gets really injured where they have to bring him back to where he comes from, which leads to a whole big old mess where he almost dies. Peter Quill basically also almost dies. Almost everyone dies in the movie, but they didn't. They work together. They understand because basically Rocket Raccoon backstory was so sad where he basically, the first time when he was created by these scientists, he was getting him and his friends were getting tested on, where they eventually had the chance to escape, but they caught on to their plan and they killed Rocket's friends, which is super sad. And then but with his new friends, the Guardians of the Galaxy, they basically got revenge, killed the person who killed his friends or old friends, and they all escaped. And Peter Quill went to retirement. The movie after Guardians of the Galaxy was Deadpool and Wolverine, which is absolutely the best movie. I think, I don't know if I should talk about Captain America, Brave New Order, or Brave New World, or Thunderbolts, or Fantastic Four, because I already talked about that. I talked about those movies in my last couple of videos or episodes. So I'm gonna talk about Deadpool, and then I'm gonna talk quickly about Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, and Brave New Order, and then that's gonna be the end of this episode. But Deadpool and Wolverine was basically where Deadpool figures out that his anchor being isn't there anymore and his reality is like dying. So he went to go across all realities to get a new Wolverine, but it doesn't work. But they realize that the TVA, which are the people saying that his universe is dying, is absolutely lying and just wanted to use this new machine. But Wolverine and Deadpool was sent to the Void, where they worked together to go back to the TVA to basically stop them from destroying their world. Which Deadpool and Wolverine almost sacrificed their life to save everyone from their realities. So, but Deadpool and Wolverine did survive and head back to their families and lived a happily ever after. I absolutely loved the movie. But Car- Captain America Brave New World was basically just Sam Wilson becoming the new Captain America, and like was getting manipulated by this like quote unquote mastermind, where he was like manipulating the government to become Red Hulk, and Captain America had to fight him and calm the government down before he like ruined everything. And he also, the government like told Sam Wilson to make a new Avengers, which also the end credits end with the mastermind saying that uh, he has to fight other heroes from different realities, which leads up to Doomsday, which is later this year. The next movie is Thunderbolts, which leads up another Avengers movie or Avengers team, which has Yelena, not Captain America, John Walker from The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We also got um the Sentry, Red Guardian, Ghost. It was basically the team getting together, and then in the end credits, they well, the villain of Thunderbolts was Sentry, because he also has split personality disorder, where he becomes the Void, which like makes people into shadows, which Yelena, Red Guardians, Bucky Barnes, John Walker all work together to make Bob, which is the Sentry, feel important. And then he went back to normal and brought everything back to normal and not so shadowy. But the end credits show that the Fantastic Four ship was coming to Earth, and that leads to the last movie, Fantastic Four, where basically they were trying to stop Galactus from going to their world to take their son, uh, what was his name? Franklin Richards, which is this cosmic being as a baby where he's able to basically create a reality at the age of, I think, 8. But it was basically the Fantastic Four's introduction. Then they figure out that Galactus is coming after Franklin, so they will work making a plan to teleport their planet out of the like away from Galactus, far away from Galactus. But the Silver Surfer stopped them from teleporting, which the Silver Surfer is basically like the herald of Galactus. So she stopped their plan, but they had one more teleporter, which they led Galactus to the teleporter, which Silver Surfer pushed them through the teleporter and teleported Galactus away, which leads to the end credits where Doctor Doom was talking to Franklin. And that's it. That's the Marvel MCU's timeline. I appreciate everyone for listening for this whole hour and 36-minute podcast episode, live stream, whatever you want to call it. I'm very thankful for everyone who will listen to this and is listening to this because y'all gonna make me go so far in life. So I appreciate it. So I hope everyone has a great night, have a great week, and remember, trust me with your future. All right. And our next podcast would definitely be on hmm on February 22nd at 8:45. So don't forget it. So everyone, thank you for popping into this episode. Now, like I said, trust me with your future, or even more, your shinier future. Thank you now.